What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another session of the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
And I'm Tom, the OG Fig Kid.
And we are joined by a special guest today. We have Jonah from Rewind, Recap, and Relive. Jonah, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here on the Turnbuckle Debate. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Sneed, for getting it right. As I said before we went on air, a couple tongue twisters along the way, so you passed the test. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to debate some stuff.
Yeah, man, we're happy to have you. And won't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah, of course. So we're Rewind, Recap, Relive, and our concept is to take a legend or a veteran in the industry and pair them up with a rising star, akin to a round table kind of discussion, almost like a seminar or two, I've heard it be called. And we're coming up on our 50th episode. So if you go to the channel, check it out. We've had Hall of Famers, legends, as I said, veterans and rising stars alike, all different fields in wrestling as well. We've had commentators, we've had managers, wrestlers. You try to get it all in there, and some great advice along the way. And I like to say that if you've seen some of the people we've had on interviewed elsewhere, when you watch our interview, it's going to be entirely different. You've never seen them quite like they are in here. Different side of the wrestlers. So definitely check it out. There's a person there that you'll like. I guarantee it. Out of our interviews, there's one that you'll find that you'll enjoy.
That's awesome. What's give us a couple of the big names you've spoken to kind of entice our listeners to check.
Yeah, of course. No, that's a great idea. To go. Let's use their hype a little bit. I'd say one person in particular. I just put out a clip from this interview earlier. If you're into interesting interviews, ones that aren't out there a whole lot, I had the pleasure of interviewing the Great Khali not too long ago. Actually, about 7 months ago. Time flies, but it was a great one. Of course, as we all know, a Hall of Famer now since I did that interview. But it was a lot of fun to have him on. I had him on with a rising star by the name of Bronco Braxton, and it was a fun one. It was interesting and unique. And there's some stories out there that I love. We posted a clip on him talking about the Punjabi prison today, which you might have heard about it from other people, but hearing about it from the guy himself, there's nothing quite like that. Let's see who else. I'd say one of the greatest episodes, I always tout this one, is Raven and a star by the name of Tony Cheney. He was a delivery boy at the time. Now he's the boss. I'd like to think Raven had a hand in that. When I was doing that interview, Raven was really on top with this concept. He was given specific advice on where to turn the gimmick, how to describe the character. And as we all know, Raven is a mastermind in all things creative throughout his career. So that was really cool to see. Some other ones, we did have Jake the Snake Roberts on a long time ago, and he gave some great promo advice to the rising star he was on with that like only Jake could do. We've had some hardcore icons, including the late, great New Jack, who actually gave some stellar advice, and that was an honor to really have him on. And he was on with 911's son, Dom Turek. So we've had some great ones. And like I said, approaching 50. And I guarantee if there's not one person you find in there who you like, at least one of these interviews, are doing an hour a week, Thursday. So approaching 50 episodes now. You'll enjoy it. You should check it out. Rewind, Recap, Relive on YouTube.
That's awesome, man.
Awesome.
That's great.
That sounds like a lot of fun too. I love the concept of it, getting a rising star and a legend to get on there. And I mean, you kind of let them meet face to face. And
yeah, there's so many wrestling podcasts out there. To find one that's original is really fun and interesting.
I appreciate that. I do. Like anytime someone says they hadn't seen it before, like that makes me happy. And then also actually seeing it work, because there's times that it turns into just a normal back and forth interview, but more times than not, I'd like to think that I see that organic connection and conversation happen between the legend and rising star. And it's awesome to see that. It makes me notice that like the concepts actually work, and that makes me happy. So yeah, definitely all original and enjoyable, I've heard.
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, make sure you guys, if you're not watching this, make sure you guys are checking that out. Well, we appreciate you stopping by to do the debate with us. We're going to get into it. We
absolutely
three topics that we do usually 10 to 12 minutes per topic. We try not to let Tom talk too much, but
I got my own show now.
that's true, Tom.
He went and started his own show.
Yeah.
This past week, the Turnbuckle Sessions, the guest was the House of Heathens, Teal Piper and Deimos. Very interested in hearing Teal tell some stories about her dad and how he helped influence her. So check it out. Turnbuckle Sessions every Wednesday.
That's awesome, man. Well,
that sounds really cool. Wow. Yeah.
Thanks.
So let's get right into it, man. Are you guys ready to get into our first topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so our first topic of the evening: has NXT finally gained third brand status in WWE?
I think it gains second tier status. I think it's above Raw at this point. I think it has. Honestly, I've always felt like Raw and SmackDown were their own brand, and NXT is a separate brand. They don't really seem like separate brands, Raw and SmackDown, to me. I know they preach that it is, but it doesn't feel like it truly is.
Here is my thing with NXT. I like NXT. Are we talking about the status in the eyes of the fans or the status in the eyes of the old man in Stamford, Connecticut? Because if we're talking about the status of the fans, I'm with Tom. NXT, I think NXT is the top tier brand as far as great storytelling, great in-ring matches. NXT beats both of the top brands. To me, it's over SmackDown and Raw. Not to say they don't have that Roman Reigns star, but as far as just week-to-week product, NXT is definitely a third brand, and I think the best brand in the WWE umbrella. But I think Vince does not look at them as a third brand. He definitely looks at it as a feeder system. He pulls guys when he wants to. We saw him pull Keith Lee in the middle. He was on the rise in NXT, and he's just jerked off of the roster. I remember when they pulled up, who was it? Alistair and Ricochet.
I'll give you one. Dijakovic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you do things like that. It makes me think that, the fans, we do think it's a very prominent third brand, but the company, the man making the decisions, I know Triple H runs the show, but we all know who really runs the show. I don't think Vince sees it as a third brand.
No, I think you're 100% right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's like a little bit dangerous to just like label something a third brand all the time too, because you look at the third brands in the past and they kind of get like that, beneath status. I almost like that NXT is its own unique area. Maybe it's like somewhere in my eyes, I always thought it was a third brand, but like when I really do think about it, it levels somewhere between like a third brand, not developmental, like another term other than developmental, because there are a lot of new guys they funnel in there, and I get that aspect of it, but there's veterans like Ciampa and Gargano in there who, I mean, they've gone on record, at least Ciampa, I know, he says he doesn't want to do the traveling schedule, I think it was, of a main roster, guy. And so he's going to stay on NXT. A guy like Walter, I think, is another one who said he doesn't want to go main roster. So you look at that, and I kind of like that it has that unique like barrier between it and Raw and SmackDown, because they had that rule. I honestly could not remember what the rule was for a little bit, where Raw and SmackDown guys could flip flop like 3 a week or something. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? It was very confusing. But
the wild card wasn't the wild card rule.
Yeah, wild card. It was like four people could show up on either show a week. I think that's what it was, like 4 wild cards. But NXT was never included in that, and I like that. And then, but you say from a company standpoint, because then I look at something like Survivor Series, it's considered a third brand. So I don't know. It's like I feel like it's a little wishy-washy at times in the eyes of the company. In the eyes of the fans, though, you're right. I agree with you. We've made up our minds. That's the third brand, and to you and many others, it's beating the 2 main roster brands. So,
think about when Aleister Black and Ricochet were called up. If you remember, Gargano and Ciampa were called up at the same time. If it wasn't for Ciampa needing neck surgery, what would have happened to them? Gargano was happy to go back to NXT, and now they don't even want to touch the main roster. Thank God, because they just go there and they would turn into everybody else who's been called up in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Well, Tom, hold on a second there. Look at Riddle, though. Look at Riddle, right?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, 100%.
Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, because I hear that a lot with like people just kind of pigeonhole the guys who get called up, the guys and women who get called up, and they say that they get turned into trash like immediately. Their characters. I don't know. Like I've been seeing a curve. I have in the better direction for people called up. Like after Aleister Black, I'd say. And of course, it's like a situation basis. But I have been seeing like Riddle, Bianca, Rhea. If Keith Lee didn't have personal issues, he beat Randy Orton, I think, on his first night. So I mean, he was on a good way, in my opinion. I think.
I would say Rhea's been fledgling though since she called up. Even though she's the champ, the way they've handled her, she looks like a fish out of water, like a deer in headlights up there right now. I don't know whether to cheer her or that's the problem with the Raw booking right now. If we want to get into that a little bit, like I feel like it's not as focused. You're not, Rhea she was a superstar in NXT.
My favorite wrestler, period. Yeah.
Amazing. And I feel like now it's not on her. It's just, I think the way they're booking the women's division on Raw right now is atrocious.
Yeah.
I actually really like the angle that was this past week with Charlotte and her and the pull apart. I don't know if you guys saw that. I felt like Rhea was actually built up a little better in that and seemed tougher. And I enjoyed that. I actually thought Raw was better this week. And it was 4 women's matches on the show. And maybe, and Riddle to me is the star right now. I love what they're doing with him and Randy Orton. It seems like this is converting him into being a main event caliber star. He's starting to lose the funny goofiness of him and starting to get a little more serious. So I kind of like that angle. So I mean, I'm kind of curious to see where this is all going to lead to. Are we just going to be disappointed again, or when the live fans come back, do they have something planned to make it better, or will it just seem better with a live audience there?
Sting, what do you think?
Well, for me, NXT, I feel like not only is it definitely a third brand now, but I feel like NXT to me is its own. It feels like its own company. It doesn't even feel like sometimes it's associated with WWE. And the fact now that there's people that don't want to move up to the main roster because outside of Riddle, I mean, I in the past few years, I can't think of any good call-ups that we've had, but the call-ups used to be so good, man. When you had Enzo and Cass coming and it was crazy. Huge when they show up and Charlotte, all the women that came up. But now the fact that people want to stay there and just the way that they do things over there, it makes me just feel like it's even its own company.
It's definitely ran that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to contradict myself. I know I said that all fans look at it as a third brand. And I think for the most part, that's true. But I think in the eyes of the company itself, the one thing that really needs to solidify this as a third company is this whole concept of fans referring to the quote unquote main roster call up.
Right.
When they're going to get called up to the main roster. Until we stop talking about that, they're always going to be looked at as developmental.
Yeah.
Like now, if it's a lateral move that, that's fine. But if we keep referring to this as a main roster call up, are they ever really going to be seen as a third brand in the eyes of the old man?
No, dude, that's an excellent point when you put it that way, because everybody says that, but people move back and forth from Raw and SmackDown. So why isn't it that they're just moving back and forth from NXT to guys I'm just about to say it again, on a main roster are asking to go back to NXT.
It's this term. It's this term in our wrestling vernacular that needs to end, and it's been beat into our head. So I think we're not meaning to say it like that in a derogatory way that they're lesser than. But I feel like at one point they were developmental, so and it's just been beat into our head.
It's because that's what Vince wants us to call it.
Yeah,
true. I was going to say another aspect that I'm wondering is like how the actual, we don't know this obviously, but how the actual superstars feel. Because you look at like Street Profits, for instance. I want to know like the backstage, because when I heard Finn Balor was getting moved back to NXT, for example. A lot of the questions were like, I saw is Finn Balor getting paid more, and I wonder if that's an aspect that kind of connotes that that meaning of main roster in our head, because like the people actually in the back are like, well, that's main roster, you get these perks and those perks. Like I'm wondering when the Street Profits moved up, and they were huge in NXT, and like I personally didn't like the Street Profits call up. I think that they're like a little stale now, I think their matches were very like cookie cutter, but I'm wondering if they got a boost in terms of like backstage things like pay or like, you know, other perks that may come with it. Like, I wonder if that is in the heads of the actual superstars themselves, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And even things like that, I think other things that kind of lean into that stigma of developmental is NXT, when the quote unquote Wednesday night wars kicked off, NXT wasn't traveling. Every week they were Full Sail. So it's like, kind of like subconsciously that makes me think like, well, if you're not putting the money into making this a nationally traveling act, what, I get you save money, but does that mean you don't think this company will draw moving all over the nation? So there's that aspect of it. And if you brought up Survivor Series, how Vince, you know, that I think it was last year or not 2019 when NXT was very involved in the Survivor Series. They won Survivor Series.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was right when Dynamite was kicking off and they were trying to really give this brand some significance to compete in those early Dynamite numbers. And as soon as NXT started losing those ratings battles, it's almost like Vince kind of pulled his interest in really supporting them on the main roster. There's that word again.
Yeah.
We didn't see them popping up on the big pay-per-views anymore because they were losing in the week-to-week Wednesday night ratings. So there's so many moving parts here, man.
There's so many. And there's also like, I do think there's that certain element that even us as fans can't access. You know, we don't even know what the backstage politics are like for somebody in it, you know, because a lot of the times this vernacular of main roster, maybe it even wasn't fans. I'm sure at one point WWE said it, you know, and at one point that came from like things within the powers that be, whatever. So it's such a weird dynamic, but I think that it's one that's here to stay for now, even if they move people like Samoa Joe, who are seasoned vets, even more so than half the people on main roster.
Right.
I think it's just so beaten into us. Like you said, it's going to be hard to shake that.
Yeah. It's very interesting to watch. And man, I would love talk about, you know, the stuff that we don't know or don't hear behind the scenes. I would love to know what Triple H.
That's a good point. Yeah.
When his talent that he puts all this time into, he gets poached by Vince. And
about Saturday. Saturday.
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt. That just came into mind because when you say he worked so hard, I distinctly remember hearing that was completely Triple H's baby, like from creative to character to every piece about it. He even sought out Eric Young for the role, you know? So it's like, it's crazy that something like that didn't even get a chance. Not even a chance. I think Eric Young had like one match on main roster.
That was one of the bigger travesties of a call-up.
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah.
All right, guys, does anybody have anything to say before we move on? Any final thoughts?
Just think we got to shake main roster. Either shake main roster or just consider NXT its own thing, you know?
Yeah,
just
that
another
main
roster.
I think that main roster term is something that definitely has to go away.
Yeah.
Because until we get rid of that main roster, I agree. You got to get rid of that.
We need Vince to come out and ban the term main roster.
Just add it to the list, man. All right, so we'll move on to the second topic of the evening. And the second topic is, when it comes to fans, is there an equal playing field between AEW and WWE?
And this was Jonah's topic that you brought to the table, so kick it off, Jonah.
Yeah, it was. Personally, I don't think so. And like, there's a lot of we know more than ever right now. There's a lot of places to get news, and there's a lot of opinions that float in the world of wrestling. But personally, like the way I see it on my social media, where I look at wrestling news, or even just how I watch it, I don't think that there is an equal playing field. You know, it's you could say that. I mean, obviously AEW caters to more of a mature audience, that's been said and detailed in the product that's actually put out there. But when I see it on display, like WWE is obviously still PG. They're going to do what they've been doing. I see them ridiculed a lot more than if AEW were to say do the exact same thing. Even something that at first doesn't get a lot of love. Like there were quite a few haters that I saw when Riddle and Randy first got together. And now I feel like those haters have shifted to friends, or not friends, to supporters of it. Because I personally like it. I see that it's one of the most popular things going right now. Gets a lot of likes, a lot of positivity. So that's like one of the things I feel like maybe WWE stuff doesn't get given a chance unless, it has to like fight its way to the top, whereas AEW can put anything out and it gets there. It doesn't need to fight that same battle.
I mean, I personally think AEW fans are not going to give the WWE a chance, and WWE fans are not going to give AEW a chance. They just can't wait to jump on each other at this point and criticize what the other's doing. They don't.
Right.
They don't want to give it a shot at this point. They're just so in love with whatever product. The guys who are just one or the other, they're so in love with theirs that whatever the other company does, they just can't wait to jump on it.
I agree. I think that's why I think there is an equal playing field, because each fan.
Whoa, wait! You said you agree with me?
Mark it.
Wow.
Mark it
Right
down.
Holy shit. Okay. Go on, Steve.
But no, I do think there's an equal playing field, because like you said, WWE fans aren't going to let AEW get away with something, and vice versa. And, nobody can like both. Nobody can just watch what they like. Everybody's going to shit on everything that they don't like.
Yeah.
I watch both.
No, but you don't I
know what you're saying.
completely criticize one over the other.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
And here's my thing. I don't think it's wrong to like one and not like the other. If that's what you like, that's what you like. And I have watched WWE for 30 years, 30 plus. So I feel like I've earned the right to be critical when I want to be critical. Now, I'm not one of those like the IWC Twitter trolls. And it's funny, Jonah, because you said what you see on Twitter leads you. It shows kind of what your likes are, because on mine, I see the complete opposite side too.
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean? I see the other side of it with WWE being critical of AEW, but like Tom said, like Sneed said, both sides are shitting on either side. I think there isn't a level playing field, but I don't care that there's not. My thing is like, okay, say a mom and pop burger joint opened up down the street from a McDonald's. The negative criticism, this is why I think WWE shitting on AEW hurts pro wrestling more than AEW shitting on WWE. Negative criticism about that mom and pop burger joint could shut that fucker down. Negative criticism about McDonald's isn't going to shut the McDonald's down. It's been around for 50, 60 years. It's going to thrive regardless of that negative criticism. AEW is 2 years in. And when you get 50% of the wrestling community attacking a new product, I think it hurts pro wrestling, because the one beautiful thing about AEW is it's elevated the pay for wrestlers in all promotions. Now there's an actual competition to sign wrestlers where there's a viable payday out there outside of WWE, which elevates WWE wrestlers. I mean, we saw that in all the contract signings like last year. So I think that's the beautiful thing. And if you're trying to close down companies, and I know there's ROH and I know there's Impact, but we're talking about a national televised show. There hasn't been one since WCW. So I think it hurts pro wrestling more when you're being hypercritical on a new company that's really trying to find itself still. There's a lot of problems. The reffing is questionable. I get it. But for people to criticize WWE, that's no sweat off their back. They're going to the train keeps rolling in Stamford.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take on it.
I appreciate you acknowledging the holes in the product, though. Like, for instance, with WWE, I feel like being a WWE fan past like the past 2012, let's say, you were criticizing like 3 out of the 7 matches on a card generally. Like, that seems like it went from watching from enjoyment to watching to criticize something.
Yeah.
And I guess where it comes in for me as mainly WWE fan, but I do really like what AEW is doing. All the points you just brought up are very good with AEW, giving those shots, elevating the payday, of course. But I think where it comes in for me, and like you said, it's all about the algorithm these days with social media, what you get.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of fans not acknowledging it. And on the flip side, I see a lot of WWE fans acknowledging it. And like, yeah, Raw's not great right now, but they say SmackDown's good. And then they get jumped on for that. You know, it's just like, I see hating WWE just out of principle these days more than just actual like thought and reasoning. It's like, oh, WWE did something, not going to check it out, you know? Like, and I get that. I get what you're saying. Like, you don't care about that because they've done it so much in the past. Like, why give them that second shot? But I don't know. I think it's healthy for pro wrestling if you give it all a chance rather than just like kind of just like that bipolar, you know what I mean, that I'm seeing now. But you brought up a great point. You know, it is all about the algorithm these days. I'm not seeing what you're seeing. So it's
and I think a big thing is it's social media, man. Like,
absolutely,
social media is so negative. It's prone to negative. You've got faceless people that sit behind their computer and bitch about things.
Yeah,
like I listen to Busted Open Radio every day, and when those guys, they have callers calling every day. These are reasonable people. Most of the callers, and this is diehard wrestling fans calling into a Sirius XM wrestling radio show. And you never hear, I mean, every once in a blue moon, one will slip through, but for the most part, these are people who like what they like, they support what they support, and they're not being hypercritical. Because I might not see as many as you do, but I know how obnoxious hardcore AEW fans who are just blind and can't admit anything else is good. That's super obnoxious.
Right.
But then when I see, there's a yin and a yang. Both sides.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely. I think they're different types of fans too. Like, I think maybe the reason why, at least in my mind, I don't see as much hate on the AEW product as I do vice versa is because they're kids. You know, a lot of the WWE fans are like way younger. You get a lot of these people who like AEW, and like you said, they're people who hide behind their computer or whatever and dart the other direction towards WWE. And that could just be, that's just a thought of mine because I know the different audiences it caters to. But all in all, yeah, I think you should just give all wrestling a chance. Like, I'll admit it was kind of hard for me to find that passion that I have had for WWE all these years and put it into watching AEW and really connecting with a whole different set of characters, a whole different set of storylines, and really just a different style of wrestling altogether. Because that's what it is. It's different from anything that's ever been here before. But I did it, you know, and like, and I love it. I really like Double or Nothing was incredible. You know what I mean? Like, that was a really enjoyable pay-per-view. And I guess what I would say is like, I just like the same eye-opening from the other side to like admit when a pay-per-view is really good. Like, I saw so much like nitpicking at WrestleMania where like it might have not needed to be there. You know, like I thought WrestleMania was really good. There are of course the little things to criticize, but all in all, I thought that was a great show. And I don't know, I saw different reactions from fans, you know.
I mean, what you like, don't watch it, but don't complain about it, because why would you not want there to be that competition in wrestling?
Exactly.
Why would you want that to go away? Like, when I see people complain about AEW or WWE, which, like you said, WWE is not going away, but for these people that are going out there and attacking AEW for what they're doing, like, do you really want them to go away and just let it be WWE again? Or do you want to have that competition out there where it's going to breed just this whole a new generation of competition? Because that's when WCW and WWE were in that's what made wrestling what it was back then.
So what made it good.
So
you're 100% correct, Steve, because like you said, back then, we don't get the Attitude Era if they didn't have the competition from WCW back then. So when these companies are in competition, you have to rise up for the competition and get better. And it's only good for fans everywhere, whether you like the product or not. You want every product to be better.
Let them do what they do.
Exactly. You should have that competition. You should have a lot of companies flourishing in wrestling. That's what it's about, and pick what you want. But you guys speak to this more than I can, because I wasn't, I wish I could have been watching the original Wars, but I wasn't. But back then, what I've been seeing is that you, what I've known as being a fan, you went and you flipped because you wanted to watch both. You know what I mean? It's completely different dynamic. It's almost an insult to refer to it as a Wednesday Night Wars, because there wasn't a war. Like, there wasn't a war for ratings in terms of like going back and forth. It was a war of like which side had more lovers and hated the other one. You know, it was almost depressing to watch because it was like creating that divide.
100%. The war in the 90s was for viewership. The war today was bitching on social media. And that's all it has been. And honestly, the thing that really bums me out about the current, and we're critical of WWE, we're critical of AEW. We love it, but listen to our show. We shit on certain angles every week. But the thing that really bums me out about pro wrestling fans today is when I was a kid growing up in the 90s with the Monday Night Wars, wrestling fans, it was an us versus them mentality. We had to put up with shit of people who trashed wrestling. So it was the wrestling fans unified against the people who made fun of wrestling. Today, it's wrestling fans against wrestling fans. It's us versus us instead of us versus them. So it's like, dude, we all love pro wrestling. We love AEW. We love ROH. We love Impact, NWA, MLW, WWE, Raw, SmackDown, NXT. We're all liking the same thing. Sure, Vince might be playing your favorite song, and maybe I like a different musician that plays a song that's more attuned to my ear, but they're all playing music. And we should all like music, regardless of what song you like and what singer you like. That's how I've always looked at it. Like, yeah, Vince might play the same thing, or Tony Khan might be playing the same thing that Vince does, but it's played by different people with different mentalities, so it won't come off the same way.
Yeah, no, awesome analogy. I love that.
And I always say, man, I say it all the time anymore. Nobody hates wrestling more than a wrestling fan.
That's true.
Absolutely. Seriously, like the furthest, like that's so I was saying with like, I feel like when WWE was alone for that, I mean, it was alone for a while, but like when it was alone and like getting the most critics was around that early 2010 to like now still getting it. And that was like the fun thing to do. Like you stopped watching it for enjoyment. You started watching it for like, all right, what don't I like here? You know, what could I text my friend about immediately after the show and shit on? So it sucks. It sucks, but that's what it is. I love that nobody hates wrestling more than a wrestling fan. That's
what it seems like, man.
It's so true, man.
I see it every week. I see it from people that's been promoting wrestling for years that come out and just completely shit on everything. And it's like, dude, you're a promoter. Like you do, like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And you hate it. Everything that's going on, you hate. Like, why are you even in this business anymore?
And
that's what I say. Like, why watch it if it's going to piss you off so much?
Right. Everything that I see, it's just one. I'm singling one person out that I see all the time, but it mirrors everything that I see in the wrestling community, and it's just, why even watch if you're just going to complain?
To me, I mean, we're all like, I never understood brand, like being loyal to a single brand. Like we love wrestling because of the wrestlers, you know, the stories being told with the wrestlers. And sure, you know, maybe we like the way Vince tells the story or Triple H tells the story better than Tony Khan tells the story. But the actors, for lack of a better word, that they're using to tell those stories, the wrestlers, those are what keep us tuning in, you know, the characters and the way they portray them and the promos they cut and the matches they have. So it's like by shitting on a company, you're essentially hurting these guys who, to me, I want to see these wrestlers flourish, be successful, make as much money as they can. And that, to do that in the best way, competition and a variety of places for them to work is very, very important.
And without it, we wouldn't have our passion projects.
Exactly. We wouldn't be doing this. Like, and I think a big aspect of that you know, it just happened, but so Samoa Joe was fired and everyone was like, where's he going? There's so many places where he could go. And he showed up in NXT and it was actually shocking. Like I was genuinely like, oh my God, he didn't go to AEW, actually went to NXT. Like that's crazy to me. So back to our first topic there. Yeah. So like I like that there's places, and not just places, like viable places. Like for a while, you know, TNA was like getting everyone that WWE fired and you were like, oh, they're just going to go to TNA. And yeah, and then that was great for some people, but still I like that there's a place that they could go and like make a whole, like Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, for example. Dean Ambrose, turned to Jon Moxley, made a whole nother career, and now he's on top of the wrestling world. Like, it's nice that it's a place where you could go and know somebody's gonna, or another one like Miro. You know, somebody could go there and really build upon what they left off from WWE.
Yeah, because dude, without options, you know, we can't even begin to entertain the thought that a Tony Khan or a Vince McMahon or Scott D'Amore in Impact Wrestling, it's not like they're going to book every single wrestler the right way every single time. If a certain promoter isn't getting it right and they're just not booking that guy, that pro wrestler to me should have the opportunity to go try his hand in another place under a different booking philosophy and see if maybe that guy gets him. Because I think sometimes Vince just doesn't get certain guys, and they shouldn't suffer for that. You know what I mean? Like and I think Jon Moxley's a prime example. Sure, he was a top guy in the Shield, but he never truly broke through that ceiling until I think he went to AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say. I mean, he had a world title run in WWE, but he wasn't what he is now.
Right.
You know?
All right, so
we could keep going on that.
Yeah, we could keep going.
We went to time limit.
we took it to the time limit draw, man. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Just watch what you want to watch, enjoy it, and don't stop and post on somebody else's post who's enjoying something just to shit on it.
Yeah, don't share all your thoughts on social media. Not everyone cares that much.
Exactly. Hey, listen to Turnbuckle sessions from last week and see what Damo said about it. He had a good point.
Yeah, he did.
All right, so we'll move on to our final topic of the evening. And our final topic is, can WWE sell out a stadium for SummerSlam without calling on John Cena or Brock Lesnar?
Ooh.
Oh, man, I don't see how right now. I just think they need something to spice it up. Although, I mean, maybe people just wanting to get back to a live crowd and a big event. Right, maybe that would help with it. But, yeah, I'd like to see a couple more names. But I just, you know, unless, you know, I keep wondering if they're starting to build to a Roman Lashley feud, the way they're building both men up on their show and maybe combine the titles down the road. That's what I'm hoping for.
Let's just lay the groundwork of this question really quick. The stadium that they're trying to sell out in Vegas, I believe, is 70,000+. And we're talking about Las Vegas in the summertime.
Is that stadium closed? Is it a dome or is it open?
Is the Raider Stadium a dome? I think it's open.
I think it is.
Is it a dome?
I think so.
Okay. Well, if it's a dome, they're in better shape.
I can't imagine in the heat in the summer having that like right in the August. Wow. But I listen, you know they're going to do something. But with the current roster, I don't know how it's possible. You for a big show like that, you always have to bring in names.
Yeah. I think it's you know, eventually they won't be able to do it, but these stars that are still from like, also I'm saying our childhood, but like, you know, those stars that still have that little bit of aura to them, like the Edges, the Cenas, the Lesnars. I think they're definitely bringing at least one of those people in. I really hope it's Lesnar. I recently saw that like his status is currently still like not returning for SummerSlam, but then again, you never know. You really don't know with something like SummerSlam. I would love to see Cena and Reigns personally. And I don't know if you saw Chris Van Vliet just put out like a thing with Cena and it was like confirmed his return. It's just a matter of when, not if. So we could definitely see something like that. I think the promos would be incredible with Reigns, Heyman, and Cena. That would be amazing. And it would, oh man, it'd be so cool to see the change too from like, I'm sure you all see the War of Words video always pop up in YouTube recommendations, Cena and Reigns from Raw. When was that, 2016 or whatever? But yeah, that was something around then. Yeah, so like that was, you know, intense. That was Reigns being Reigns back then. But now the Reigns how he is now, being himself, being with Heyman, being just such a believable, convincing figure in WWE. I mean, this could be a real money match. Not going to be a long-term feud, but it could be a real, I can think it could be a money match for sure.
Yeah,
Roman going in.
Confirmed to it is a dome stadium.
Okay, that's good.
It is. I can see Reigns like Cena coming back and they start that whole thing and Reigns is like, I gotta beat you again. Like they could do a whole new angle with that. Cena coming back for his redemption. I mean, why not have Brock versus Lashley on the card as well? You get a double whopper of a main event.
I would love Brock and Lashley. I think that could be an awesome match. I really do. And to put this out there, Brock's my favorite guy for those watching. Like I'm always going to be biased towards Lesnar. I want to see him come back. But personally, I want to just say real fast, I think Tom hit the nail on the head there when he said that people just want wrestling. I don't know if 70,000+ want wrestling. Like, I don't know if that is the number, but I know that they're going to do a big number just from people who want to be there alone. You know what I mean? Like, I totally feel that. I
can confirm that people do want wrestling. We were at Double or Nothing.
Nice.
Yeah, we were there.
And to be there with the 5,500 people that were there, and everybody was passionate and rabid and ready to be back.
Cool.
Pro wrestling.
I think I saw on your social media. I just want to say I respect the modesty for when I mentioned Double or Nothing. You weren't like, we were there. I like that.
we had to hold our tongue.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been to a lot of events. Money in the Banks. I've never been to a WrestleMania, so I can't relate it to that. But we were at ECW One Night Stand in 2006.
Nice.
And the Double or Nothing crowd, man, it was right there, if not above that crowd. I mean, it
was special.
It felt special. It felt like, hey, we've been pent up for a year plus.
Yeah.
We want some live pro wrestling. The only thing I worry about with, WWE being able to sell out a 70,000+ stadium, does the pandemic play into that? There are those people out there that are still leery to be shoulder to shoulder with thousands of people. So is that going to make it a little harder for them to sell those tickets? And I'll be honest, man, if they don't have those Brocks and John Cena's on the card, dude, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre is not going to sell out a 70,000 seat arena. I'm sorry. It's just not going to. Like, I love Roman. And you mentioned John Cena. I don't know if he said this on the Chris Van Fleet show, but I saw a quote from him today, actually, while I was at work, that said he is open to the possibility of turning heel, and that he thinks in the current landscape, it could work today. So that throws a wrench in. If you bring back, and it got me thinking, because I haven't been really, really up on Raw. If you want to make Raw instantly credible and make jaded MFers like me tune back in, you bring back a heel John Cena and help him build a uber baby face, whoever that may be. I don't know who the feud would be with, but man, you bring back a heel John Cena, I think you sell out any arena in the nation.
This is complete fantasy booking, but imagine you got heel Cena, and then for some reason that baby face turns out to be Riddle, and you got Orton, who's fought Cena more times than ever, coaching Riddle right by his side.
Oh,
that'd be a cool one. But
that'd be cool.
No, but what you just said is, I agree. Cena, oh my God, heel would definitely make me tune into SummerSlam just to see what happens, whoever he's going against. That would make it interesting for sure. Very interesting.
Did we get a little preview of what's coming on SmackDown last week with the I don't know if you guys saw the botch where they put up WWE.
Oh, I saw that.
Said WWE champion Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman.
Yeah, it was over.
Over Bailey.
Bailey.
I didn't see that. I didn't think that was real at first, but I saw it on social media first. That's crazy. I guess we did, right? Was that on purpose? Was that how do you botch that?
Right. Why is his name even in the graphic package?
Exactly.
Is it just to get people talking?
SmackDown. It could be just to get us talking, honestly.
Yeah. I never even thought about it like that either, but
they could have just been putting the cheese out there to see what the internet did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Start a little buzz.
What other, we've talked about Cena and Brock. Instant credibility, instant eyes on the product. I mean, to me, the beauty they have right now is Roman Reigns is packaged for two monster storylines. You've got the Paul Heyman storyline with his two advocates, Reigns and Lesnar. Who does he side with? There's that storyline.
I want to see that.
You've got the reins and the head of the table, the Samoan dynasty with The Rock lingering out there. You know, whenever they decide to pull the trigger on that, is there any other guy we're maybe forgetting about that they could bring back that would be on a level of a Cena or a Brock that we haven't even touched on yet?
CM Punk.
Yeah.
You'd get people watching.
It's in there. Am I frozen for you guys? Sorry.
Yeah, you're frozen.
What, fix that? All right, go on. Sorry.
But yeah, CM Punk, I've given up on Punk.
Yeah. CM Punk, just for me, I don't think he's.
I agree. I've given up on him, but if he decided to come back, it would still be an instant buzz.
I agree. It definitely would. Yeah, CM Punk's probably the only one. I mean, I don't know if Daniel Bryan.
Do they bring back The Undertaker?
No.
Mm-mm.
I've heard.
No, I don't think so.
I hope not.
Sadly.
Were you going to say you heard something?
I've heard scuttlebutt on the radio about Vince picking that phone up and making that call. But
one final ride?
Come on.
One more ride?
No, man. Look, I love The Undertaker. I do too. I know you hate him, Tom. Like
I don't hate him.
I don't know. I think you can go back in the archives and check it where one of the first we had, Tom said he pretty much hated The Undertaker. So
that's not what I said.
The Undertaker.
I don't hate The Undertaker. I have his commemorative box from WWE.com.
Hey, right after that. You bought it after you said you hated him.
I never said I hated him.
We'll pull that clip sometime. But
pull it.
But after doing that whole last ride thing, I love him, but after that whole thing, I loved the last ride. I thought it was perfect. I don't want to see him come back.
I'm torn because I agree the last ride was a great way to send him off. The only thing that really hurts my heart is that his last match was a cinematic match. That man deserves to go out in the ring.
I agree.
And you know what? One more match. AJ Styles could still come in and make him look good if he's going to have a match with anyone. You got to put him in there with somebody like AJ Styles. So they get one more match. It'd be a fun match. It'd be awesome. And what about this? What if Undertaker's retired, but like Mark Callis comes back and has a match, like Mick Foley?
All right, come on.
No, you're getting crazy.
You're going off the deep end there. Sounds like something that a guy who hates the Undertaker would say.
Yeah,
No!
That's 100% what it is.
Don't bring up Kane.
Kane's not going to draw 70,000. I love Kane, but come on.
That Hall of Fame video package they did for him was insane. I love that. Oh man.
Oh yeah, that was
great.
That'd definitely get you in the feels
in the Kane mood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, guys. Well, anybody have any final things to say before we wrap up for the evening?
And a hush.
I know. I'm trying to troubleshoot what's happening over here. Can you guys cut this out? This part of me doing this? I kind of want to leave and come back and see if that fixes it.
Yeah, we can
do that.
Yeah.
You don't mind? Okay, because I don't know what's happening. You can hear me good though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Annoying. All right, let me try this. I'll be right back.
So yeah.
Well, while we're waiting on him to come back, Tom, let's talk about, you did say before that you didn't like The Undertaker.
I never said I hated him. I said I didn't love the character.
You've never loved the character is what you said.
We good?
Yeah. Right.
Good.
I said it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So we're going to go. I was asking Tom about his Undertaker stuff, but we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the evening. But Jonah, I wanted to give you another chance to plug everything that you have and tell them where they can find you and give them another little recap of, no pun intended, of what your show is.
Yeah, no, thank you a lot, Sneed, for that. Yeah, of course. So we pair up a legend and a rising star each week, seminar, roundtable, however you want to look at it. There's some great advice given. Never seen these wrestlers quite like this before. And you can find all of our interviews at Rewind, Recap, Relive. We've had on over a dozen Hall of Famers in the industry. We've had Jake the Snake Roberts, New Jack, I think I said earlier, Raven. Who else? We have had, it's so hard to pinpoint because there's been so many. So totally not a subtle brag there either. But so we got an episode coming out. We got an episode tomorrow with Renee Dupree, which should be a lot of fun. We've had Doc Gallows on the show. We've had, and then some rising stars like Blanco Loco. We've had Sky Blue, who's doing some work with NWA right now, which is cool to see that progression. Corey Cooper. You might not know these names now, but you will once you check it out and check out some of their stuff. So make sure you head over to Rewind Recap Relive at YouTube, Rewind Recap Relive at Instagram, and Twitter is at R3Jonah. Look at all of our content. And thank you, honestly, so much for having me here. This was a lot of fun. This was great, this debate.
Thanks, man. We'll have to have you back on sometime.
Yeah, definitely, man. You always have a seat here if you want to come on. Just
Thank
all
you.
you gotta do, you have our contact. Shoot us a message. This is our Wednesday night thing. So
yeah, if anything ever gets in your crawl, man, that you really want to just fight about, just hit us up and we'll have you on.
This is definitely the space for that too. I loved this. This was like good conversation, solid debate, nothing annoying or anything, no strong opinions here. Well, I guess strong opinions, but fair opinions is the way to put it. So yeah, definitely. I'll message you guys. Thank you.
Amazing.
It was fun.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for the evening. Tom, go ahead and get your stuff in just like we do every week.
Listen to the Turnbuckle sessions every Wednesday. This Wednesday, we have Mark Bitt as an indie referee. Learn about how refs training and what they do. You get a whole new feel for it. It's a lot of fun. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the OG Fit Kid.
Awesome, man. He didn't even get any like crazy things this week. So I guess with that being said, court is dismissed.